The Tolkien Road, Episode 55, The Silmarillion, Chapter 22, of the Ruin of Doriath. Alright, go ahead. The Tolkien Road, 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 Hey there, fellow travelers. Welcome to the Tolkien Road, a long walk through the works and philosophy of J.R.R. Tolkien. On this episode, we discuss the Silmarillion, Chapter 22, of the Ruin of Doriath. We're approaching the conclusion of the First Age, and Chapter 22 can be seen as the beginning of the end. A lot happens here, so you won't want to miss our discussion. By the way, please leave the Tolkien Road a rating and feedback on iTunes. It's easy to do, only takes a moment. It's the best way to show your appreciation for what we're doing here. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Tolkien Road. John here, joined by Greta. Greta, what's new?
What's new? My Villanova Wildcats advancing to the Big East Final tomorrow. That's new.
Did this suddenly become a sports podcast?
You asked me what's new, and that's new because it just happened like an hour ago.
You also just made some tea. I mean, it was a rhetorical question. You know, you're supposed to say, not much.
Oh, well, I don't know. I thought I'd liven it up a little bit.
You're like that person at work, you know, like when you go into work, you're like, oh, hey man, how's it going? And they start in, they're like, and you learn quickly, like never ask them, how's it going?
Unless you really care.
But, I mean, come on, it's, Joe that you work with, you don't really care that much.
But sometimes people need an opportunity to share.
Mm-hmm. Not with their coworkers. Come on, we need to be efficient and work.
That may be the only human contact
There's work to be done.
all day.
Get it work. Get it done. Get it work.
Remind me to never, ever have you as a boss.
Yeah, well, that's how I roll.
Please never hire me.
I am your boss. I run this podcast. Who do you think runs this podcast, huh? You think you'd even be on this Tolkien podcast if it wasn't for me? Huh?
Well, I don't know. I kind of got my feet wet last week, leading the discussion and all. Thinking about maybe starting my own show.
Yeah, this is my impression of you leading the discussion last week. And then Turin did... No, wait. He did this... Where am I again? What's going on? Yeah,
whatever.
That was you.
I did good. You know it, and our listeners know it, and that's all I care about. I don't care what you think anyway.
Just keep telling yourself that. Just keep telling yourself that.
True story. See if I ever make you tea again. Geez, we've gotten off to a kind of negative start. Way to go, John.
Yeah, well, you started off super positive, so I had to tone it down.
Oh, is that what that was?
You were like, woohoo! Go Villanova! We rule!
And you had to lower my self-esteem by about 16 million notches before we could move on. Is that what you're saying?
Something like that. What are we? I don't even know what we're talking about
anymore. I don't know either.
All right, so we're here to talk about Tolkien, not about...
Oh, I thought we were here to talk about basketball.
No.
Darn. Okay, I'm leaving. You can do this one on your own.
I don't think Tolkien would have known what
I would like
basketball
to see
was.
how you do, on a solo podcast. Just see what happens if I just boycott. Say, I'm done having you as a boss.
Hi, everyone. This is John. Welcome to my podcast.
I bet you would tank fast.
John's World.
John's World. I mean, you'd probably do fine, but it wouldn't be nearly as good.
Hey, we're a team. You know what team stands for?
No.
Together, each achieves mucho.
No.
Yeah.
That's so lame.
It's totally an acronym.
Well, you know what? Then maybe team members should treat each other with respect. Just an idea.
Then it would be teamer. Together, each achieves more respect.
It doesn't make any sense. I wasn't trying to make a new acronym. I was just saying be nice.
Okay. Are we going to talk about Tolkien or what? Yes, we are. All right. Chapter 22 of the Ruin of Doriath. Spent a couple weeks on Turin Bar.
Turin and Turinbar.
And it's time to go back and pick up with his dad.
Yes.
Pick up with old Húrin. Húrin.
I like to say it Húrin.
Who?
Húrin.
Who?
I said Húrin.
Húrin?
Húrin.
Húrin?
Húrin. Themin. And she's in. And him in. Húrin. Húrin him in.
What's that?
Oh, good. You salvaged it, maybe.
Needed that.
Did we?
Yeah, this episode was going south fast before that. Man,
it was all your fault, by the way.
Pretty much your fault.
No, your fault.
You started off by responding to my rhetorical "How's it going?" with some long spiel about Villanova and how you make good tea.
Maybe I wanted to brag a little bit.
All right, paper, rock, scissors time. No.
You don't even need to have your other hand available. You only need one hand.
You have to play this way.
No, you don't. If you're not going to call it the right name, I'm not going to play it the right way. Are you going to call it rock, paper, scissors, or are you going to call it paper, rock, scissors?
What?
It's rock, paper, scissors.
Paper, rock.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot! Rock, paper, scissors, shoot!
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot!
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot! Rock, paper, scissors, shoot! Rock, scissors, shoot! Rock, paper, scissors, shoot! What the world? We are like in each other's brain tonight. This is scary. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot! Yes, I win! Man. Finally.
All right.
You go first.
I think it's time for a break already.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah. All right, I'm going first.
For whatever listeners who have stuck around this long.
Yeah.
They're probably ready for a break.
Okay.
Oh, we're not taking a break?
We had to start off this episode kind of lame because the rest of the episode is going to be like so awesome. It's going to be
right.
painful.
We don't want to blow your minds right off the bat.
Yeah. It's going to be like just moment by moment awesomeness, like mind, like
I know. There's like
your head is going to explode multiple times during this podcast.
Action.
Literally.
Yeah.
So
buckle your seatbelts.
Yeah, we have to start off kind of lame.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go.
And that's why I mentioned the Villanova Wildcat.
And here's the first, just totally awesome thing.
Do it. I'm waiting.
Of Húrin's despair and Thingol's vainglory, come Doriath's dark doom.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. That's really good.
Yeah. I know.
Of Húrin's what?
Húrin's despair.
Despair. Thingol's vainglory. That's really good. I like that a lot. Alright, here's mine. Release from Angband to bondage leads. Lessen pride, hasten final days.
Nice.
Yeah, I was pretty proud of that one.
That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
We both did well tonight.
Yeah. It was kind of hard, like, not to do good with this chapter.
Yeah, there was plenty of things to talk about in this chapter for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, both Josh and Mary Grace sent in.
Yay! Super fans unite!
They sent in 2 haiku each, so I'm gonna read both of them from each of them.
Sweet. Do it. Who's going first?
We'll do Josh first.
Okay.
Alphabetical order.
Sweet.
Despair caught Húrin. Lone wanderer seeks refuge. Doriath opens arms.
One more time, please.
Despair caught Húrin. Lone wanderer seeks refuge. Doriath opens arms.
That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. You both used Húrin and despair together.
Yeah.
Common theme.
Great minds think alike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. I like it.
Right on. Good job, Josh. Here's another one. Another one he gave us. Thingol flint, dwarves steel, a spark to burn the ages. Yavanna's claim, true.
Haven't heard of old Yavanna lately, have we?
Right.
I like that. He's showing his prowess of the Silmarillion there.
I was thinking about what he means by Yavanna's claim there, and I wasn't entirely certain. I was thinking maybe it has to do with just Yavanna's warning, or getting on Alei's case about the dwarves, because they would kind of always be at war with her creations. I think that's the one he's talking about. I think that's the one he's referring to.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Given the events of the chapter.
I think so.
Yeah. I like it.
Good job.
Yes,
Nicely
well
done,
Josh. As usual.
All right, Mary Grace.
Mary Grace.
Doth the Dark Lord sleep? Nay, thou hast been mistaken. Keep watch. He cometh.
Ooh. Dun dun dun.
Nice.
I like that.
Good stuff.
Very, very good.
All right, part 2 for Mary Grace. The bright holy jewels, the Silmarils, yet again an object of lust.
Yep.
Right.
She and I had a similar theme in ours. Great minds.
I
like it. I like them all. Thank you, guys.
Good job, people.
Well done.
Well done. A worthy effort of haiku. Worthy
haiku and effort.
All right, Greta. Well, let's talk about.
Let's do it.
Of the Ruin of Doriath.
Let's do it. What are we waiting for?
We're not waiting for anything. We're starting right now.
Sweet.
So
let's roll.
Húrin. So we pick up right as Thorin has met his fate.
Right.
And we find out that Húrin has, from his seat atop Thangorodrim, has been forced to witness it all through Morgoth's eyes, right?
Right.
And so what that means is that he's had a distorted view of it. I'll go ahead and read this little paragraph here about it. Unhappy was the lot of Húrin. For all that Morgoth knew of the working of his malice, Húrin knew also. But lies were mingled with the truth, and aught that was good was hidden or distorted. In all ways, Morgoth sought most to cast an evil light on those things that Thingol and Melian had done, for he hated them and feared them. When therefore he judged the time to be ripe, he released Húrin from his bondage, bidding him go whither he would. And he feigned that in this he was moved by pity, as for an enemy utterly defeated. But he lied, for his purpose was that Húrin should still further his hatred for elves and men ere he died. So, Morgoth is letting Húrin go.
Right.
After witnessing all of this, basically the destruction of his family, right? And more than the destruction, just the utter
ruin,
disgrace and ruin, and destruction.
Yes.
And Morgoth decides to do this because he knows he can use Húrin for what he wants, and what he wants is to figure out where Gondolin is.
Right.
Right. Gondolin is the last holdout. Well, you've got Doriath, which of course will figure in the chapter. Gondolin is the one place that he really has no idea where it is.
Right.
So, remember at one point we talked about the 3 great realms, the 3 great cities of Beleriand. There's many, but there are 3 great ones are Doriath, in the Thousand Caves, right? Menegroth, which is the kind of the palace within Doriath. Nargothrond,
right, and
Gondolin. Nargothrond fell in the chapter about Thorin in the last chapter, right? It was invaded by Glaurung.
And that's where Finrod Felagund lived, right?
That's where he lived before he went
off with Beren.
Right, before he was captured by Sauron. And
then Doriath is where Thingol and Melian are.
Right.
And who's in Gondolin?
Gondolin is where Turgon is.
Turgon, that's right.
Turgon.
That's right.
Turgon. Okay, I thought you said Turon.
No.
Okay.
I said Turgon.
All right. Yeah, okay.
Who is his brother?
Turgon is one of Fingolfin's sons, I believe.
Oh, right.
Right. Okay. Let's double check that.
And that's a super secret kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Like Doriath. right?
Turgon is one of Fingolfin's sons.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Morgoth wants to use Húrin to figure out where Gondolin is. Is that right?
Right.
That's why he's letting him go.
Exactly. So
he has no good purpose in letting him go.
Right. He says, but he tells him that he pities, he's moved by pity, but he lies for his purpose was that Húrin should still further his hatred for elves and men ere he died.
Right.
So all Húrin knows, what Húrin knows is Nargothrond has fallen.
He knows his son is dead. Right.
And he knows that Balerion is not in good shape because they lost, they've lost the last few battles. And so he goes looking for refuge, tries to find Gondolin. Mm-hmm. And for 28 years, he had been captive in Angband. And he was grown grim to look upon. Mm-hmm. He was, what you'd think of as an old man, but he walked unbowed, bearing a great black staff, and he was girt with a sword. And thus he passed into Hithlum, and tidings came to the chieftains of the Easterlings that there was a great riding of captains and black soldiers of Angband over the sands of Anfaglith, and with them came an old man as one that was held in high honor. And so he wanders through. The remnant of his own people shunned him. And there's kind of suspicion that he's coming from Angband, so, he's bad news. Right? So it's kind of like insult to injury, right? He's gone through all of this, and his own people won't even receive him back at this point.
Yeah.
Because he's assumed to be a bad guy now. He's been in prison for so long.
Right. He's been turned, right? So
the freedom increased the bitterness of his heart. And he desired to come again to the hidden realm of Gondolin. Remember, he and Húrin and Huor had once been the only two mortal men to have dwelt in Gondolin, right?
Oh,
once upon a time.
Yes.
And so he goes searching. He knows where the secret entrance is, so he goes there, but he's unable to get back in. And then the eagles factor into it.
Right.
Yeah.
But they don't help him.
Right. Why not?
Because Sauron said, "Don't do it." Right. Initially, he says, "No, I'm not gonna. I don't open up my kingdom." Right.
Mm-hmm.
Don't open us up to the evil of Morgoth. And then the eagle leader tries to change his mind, right?
Right.
And then he does. Turgon does change his mind, and the eagles go and look for him, but they can't find him.
Right.
It's too late.
Yeah, Turgon finally remembers the deeds of Húrin, and it's too late to let him in. He's already gone wandering further on.
But that's pretty, I always found that very surprising that the eagles couldn't find him. Because you think of, these, they're almost like supernatural beings, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, eagles, even not supernatural eagles, are amazing creatures, right? With, insane eyesight and,
Speaking of eagles, you know what weird thing happened to me yesterday?
You see an eagle?
I think I did. And literally, I think I was walking into our church, mm-hmm. and it was like this shadow, and it's not like another bird in the sky. I've seen hawks around, but mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure this was an eagle because it just seemed bigger than the hawks I see around. And I mean, you look at that thing, especially if it's it almost seemed to be hovering above me, really? Flying around above me, and I was kind of like, what's? But I almost felt like, is he gonna land in front of me and attack me or something like that? Because I think he would whoop me,
Oh yeah, oh that's wild.
But he didn't do anything like that. But you have it's not like an eagle flying over you is not like another bird.
No, no.
An eagle flying over you is very intimidating.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was just a really weird moment. And these eagles, the eagles of Manwë, are gigantic eagles.
Right. So they're super eagles, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I was just all that to say Because I was surprised they couldn't find him. Because they have like spidey sense, like to the extreme.
Yeah.
Right? And they still couldn't find him. So that just surprised me. I thought they would find him, but they didn't.
Well, at this point, he is standing in despair before the silent cliffs of the Corioth, and the westering sun, piercing the clouds, stained his white hair with red. And he calls out to Torgon. Torgon, remember the fen of Sarek. O Torgon, will you not hear in your hidden halls? But there's no response for him. What this ends up doing is getting back to Morgoth of, okay, this is where Gondolin is now, right? He doesn't know exactly how to get in there, but he knows
he has a general
this is
idea,
where Gondolin is. So Húrin has done exactly what he needed him to do. And
now, did Húrin know that that's what Morgoth wanted?
I don't think he did.
Like, did Morgoth plant ideas in his head? Like, is he kind of like Morgoth's little puppet? Like, you know what I mean?
I don't think he knew.
No, okay.
I mean, I don't think he would have done it if he'd known, if that was the plan.
Yeah, I guess that's probably true. I guess Morgoth is just very sneaky and cunning like that, so he just devised.
Yeah, I think he just totally ravaged Húrin so much that Húrin was so in need of something good, of some friendship or goodness, that it's almost kind of like what Sauron does to Gorlim, the unhappy, at the beginning of Beren and Lúthien, where he sets him up, thinking his wife is still alive,
right?
And it's all just a trick to get him to rat on his friends.
Right.
He's just so unhappy that he's weak. So it's not like this deliberate treachery or something like that. It's
just a breaking down.
It's a brokenness, right?
Yeah.
And I think Húrin is in a way broken here, although not completely broken, I would say. I mean, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say, but I think the eagle's not finding him. Obviously, kind of was in a way a Felix culpa, right? Because he ends up coming upon Morwen. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I have a hard time calling that a Felix culpa, but
he gets to see his wife
one last time.
Yeah, one last time.
I guess so. I mean, it's not really a very happy reunion.
No, but it's something. I don't know. I still feel like it would be better than nothing. Like just being left wondering and. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, he arrives at basically the place where the stone was erected as a memorial to Turin.
Right.
And he says, but Húrin did not look at the stone, for he knew what was written there. And his eyes had seen that he was not alone. Sitting in the shadow of the stone there was a woman, bent over her knees, and as Húrin stood there, silent, she cast back her tattered hood. Oh, excuse me. Hopefully that didn't pick up. This tea is good. Anyway. All right. And as Húrin stood there silent, she cast back her tattered hood and lifted her face. Grey she was and old, but suddenly her eyes looked into his, and he knew her. For though they were wild and full of fear, that light still gleamed in them that long ago had earned for her the name Elethwin, proudest and most beautiful of mortal women in the days of old. You come at last, she said. I have waited too long. It was a dark road. I have come as I could, he answered. But you are too late, said Morwen. They are lost. I know it, he said, but you are not. But Morwen said, almost. I am spent. I shall go with the sun. Now little time is left. If you know, tell me. How did she find them? But Húrin did not answer, and they sat beside the stone, and did not speak again. And when the sun went down, Morwen sighed and clasped his hand and was still, and Húrin knew that she had died. Or how did she find him? Yeah, how did she find... Yeah, okay.
Talking of Niniel, right?
What's that?
Is she talking of Niniel?
Niniel, yeah.
Niniel,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. He maybe not a happy fault, but I think there was obviously a purpose in the Eagles not finding him.
Right.
I think that was at least some closure.
Well, Yeah, maybe a little bit of closure.
Yeah.
Well, and an interesting thing that Húrin says here is she was not conquered. He looked down at her in the twilight, and it seemed to him that the lines of grief and cruel hardship were smoothed away. Mm-hmm. He says she was not conquered. Yeah. He closed her eyes and sat unmoving beside her as the night drew down. That made me think of, Tolkien's fascination with like Beowulf and other other ancient literature that's kind of at the threshold of like pagan turning into Christian. His fascination with Beowulf was that it had kind of one foot in the pagan world, one foot in the Christian world, and in pagan way of thinking. In other words, the pagan way of thinking and the Christian way of thinking, and he basically looked at thought of Beowulf as here's this now Christian poet looking back at the pagan culture that is is not a distant memory for him, is something that's still familiar to him, and looking back and saying like these pagans before they had the light of Christ they lived in a world of despair, and all they knew is they kind of assumed that the darkness will ultimately conquer, but they still fought against the darkness. They still held out and fought against it. And what he does with Turin and Húrin and Morwen here, that line right there of she was not conquered makes me think of that. It's like, because in a way like kind of she was conquered, right? She died, and she died with her family destroyed and everything. Greta, what do you think that means?
I don't know, because she died, so she was conquered. So.
Okay, moving on.
I don't know what it means. What do you think it means?
What do you think I think it means?
Well, I'm tempted to say something about, because when she died, her face got soft and you couldn't see the lines, and it was like she was revived or refreshed or made new. So I'm tempted to say something like an afterlife or a new beginning of sorts. But that doesn't make sense.
Why?
Because she's a woman, and this is pre-Christ era.
What? She's a woman.
She's a woman. She's not an elf. She's a woman.
Oh,
right?
I see. So you're saying she's a man.
She's not immortal. She's of the race of men.
Yeah.
Right? And this is before Christ came, so there's no, like heaven talk here.
Yeah.
Right?
There's no like hope of heaven. Yeah, you go back in the Silmarillion, and we talk about men being mortals, and that therefore death is a frightening thing for them, right?
Right.
They envy elves for their immortality, right?
While elves
envy men
for their mortality.
For their mortality, that's right. That whole grass is always greener on the other side thing, but
yes. But the men don't know. Like, at least the elves know they go to the halls of Mondos, right? Where the men have no idea what happens when they die. But this may be giving us like a little peek into.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the end for men either. Like, even though they die.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and what we we talked about Mythopoeia several episodes back.
Right.
And one of the lines in Mythopoeia is it basically says commends those of ancient days who in the face of despair and ultimate defeat didn't give up, right? They still clung on to some hope, even though they didn't know what that hope was, right?
Yeah.
It was kind of an intuitive internal hope.
A perseverance type of
right
thing, like a
yeah. have seen death and ultimate defeat, yet would not in despair retreat. And I think I read it that way. I read that what Húrin is saying of Morwen here is that in her heart, she knew death and ultimate defeat and despair in a way, but she didn't completely give in to the darkness, right?
Right. Would have been easy to.
Yeah, with all those things that happened. Yeah. The character that, maybe the ultimate character in all of Tolkien that really does is Denethor in Return of the King, when he, basically burns himself alive because he thinks that Mordor, the forces of Mordor, are about to overrun, Minas Tirith.
Right.
And Gandalf really, chides him for that and rebukes him for that. But it's this ancient, it goes back to these ancient days, right? And so for Tolkien, writing this as writing his Middle-earth works as an ancient sort of history / mythology for the world we live in. This was the fate of men, right? Before the coming of Christ, was that there was no knowledge of what lay beyond.
Right. Yeah.
Or no certain hope of what lay beyond. Maybe we'd put it. There was certainly speculation and that kind of thing, but there was no certain knowledge, right? So, yeah, I look at that as Morwen ultimately not being conquered by the fear of death, right? That she didn't ultimately give in to the darkness and go over to darkness and the way she lived her own life, even though, she may not have felt like there was much to live for anymore.
And we don't know what she was doing this whole time either, though. Because last we hear in the chapter about Thorin, she's, lost in the midst of a ambush, right?
Yeah, and it could be that I'm reading too much into it.
No, I'm just saying that we don't know. No, you're right.
No, I'm admitting that. I'm admitting that. I mean, I could be making more of that one line than I think, but it's an interesting line to me, that she wasn't conquered. And also just that she seems to, what does it say right after that?
That she, and it seemed to him, he looked down at her in the twilight, and it seemed to him that the lines of grief and cruel hardship were smoothed away. She was not conquered, he said, and he closed her eyes and sat unmoving beside her as the night drew down.
Yeah, the lines of cruel hardship smoothed away.
Right.
So
he's maybe just...
There's peace coming. There seems to be peace coming.
Right, there seems to be a peace, but then where's that peace coming from? Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, because her body is dead.
Yeah. Right?
So it must be coming from somewhere deep within or without. It's obviously not a bodily thing.
Yeah.
It's a soul. It's a spiritual kind of...
Yeah. All right, so you're feeling me. Like, I'm not just me making...
No, I think I get it. I mean, because, if anybody had reason just to throw in the towel and say, forget this, life sucks, it wouldn't be her.
Yeah.
I mean... But do you think there's any significance to the fact that it almost seems like she was waiting for Húrin to find her before she died? Or do you think it's just a coincidence that she died, like, within hours of him happening upon her?
I mean, no, I think it was something, that he needed to find her. Like, she needed to see him again before she died.
It was like a closure.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
That she could just let go.
Right.
Still
anyway.
sad, though.
Yeah. It is. It's very sad.
Really sad.
All right. Well, there's still lots more to go in this chapter. Húrin's going to head on from here to Nargothrond, to the ruins of Nargothrond. But why don't we take a quick break and we'll come back and I'm going to let you lead the rest of the chapter.
Ooh.
All right.
Sounds like a plan.
Don't go away.
Stay tuned. Hey, Tolkien Roadsters. What's shaking? Greta Carswell here, just getting my groove on to the Tolkien Haiku theme music. Man, that's an awesome song. You know what else is awesome? Feedback on the Tolkien Road on iTunes. Oh yeah, you heard me right. iTunes feedback is one of the best ways you can tell the world about your undying love for this podcast. Because it lets those knuckleheads at Apple know that the Tolkien Road is where it's at. I mean, come on. Why didn't they know that already? Am I right? So next time you're waiting in line to pick up some delicious tacos, surfing the World Wide Web, brushing up on a Tom Bombadil factoid, or keeping it real in whatever way you keep it real, pop on over to iTunes and let the human race know what you think about the Tolkien Road. We're all dying to know, for reals. Party on, y'all. And we're back. As promised, I will be leading you through the rest of this chapter. If I need John, I'll point to him and he can say a few words, but just expect this to be a Greta monologue.
Okay. Go for it.
Just kidding, that would be lame. But we just talked about Morwen. Morwen's gone. She died. And now Húrin is going to head to Nargothrond. And I don't remember, is there like a reason he goes there?
That he goes to Nargothrond?
Yeah, is there like a particular thing?
It says, there came a chill wind that drove sharp rain into his face, and he was roused, and anger rose in him like smoke, mastering reason, so that all his desire was to seek vengeance for his wrongs and for the wrongs of his kin, accusing in his anguish all those who ever had dealings with them. Then he rose up and he made a grave for Morwen, and upon it, it's told that
so he was trying to get away from the rain.
Yeah. Well, I was reading the wrong part.
Well, no, he does want vengeance. So
he crossed over Thingol and passed southwards down the ancient road that led to Nargothrond, and he saw far off to the eastward the lonely height of Amon-Ruth, and knew what had befallen there. Last he came to the banks of Narog, so he's just kind of wandering at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so there's not a specific he's just kind of wandering, and he ends up in Nargothrond. And when he gets to Nargothrond, he happens upon, is it Meme? Meme, the petty dwarf, who's there now, living among the treasure and just...
Yeah, this picture of Meme here kind of reminded me of there's a way, and I wasn't going to say that, but that's actually, it's kind of, but also I think there's some definite parallels here with Meme and what happens at the end of The Hobbit, because you got dwarf, and then the place was ruined by a dragon, and then and this was a kingdom that was created by the dwarves, right?
Yes.
And then you've got this Nauglamir that they eventually the dwarf necklace.
Oh right, yeah.
Which to me is kind of like the Arkenstone, in The Hobbit.
I can see that. Yeah.
Just in the way that they react to it and the way they want to possess it,
that's
and everything like that. So
yeah,
I guess there may be some parallels there.
Interesting.
But when I think of Meme here, though, I think of the last man on Earth. There's one man that survives the apocalypse, and he's the only human being living anymore, and so he just goes around being king, pretending he's king everywhere. He's got he hoards up all this cool stuff for himself, and just look at all my awesome stuff. That's what I think of Meme right now.
Yeah. Because it's totally he's totally a poser. It's not, none of it's his.
Yeah.
Right? It's just it was just luck, right? He did nothing really to earn it. But anyway, he gets what's coming to him because Húrin shows up, and he's like, "Who are you that would hinder me from entering the house of Fëanor Felagund?" And then Meme goes on and tells him who he is, and he's like, basically, this is all mine because I'm the last of my people.
Mm-hmm.
And Húrin's like, yeah, no, you're done. And he kills him. And then he goes in. So after Meme's gone, Húrin goes in to to Nargothrond. And it says that he stayed a while in that dreadful place where the treasures of Valinor lay strewn upon the floors in darkness and decay. But then he took through all this treasure and he takes only one thing.
Right.
And it turns out that that one thing he takes from all those heaps of treasures is, how do you say it again?
I say it Nauglamir.
Nauglamir, the necklace
of the dwarves.
That was made for Finrod Felagund long years before by the craftsmen of Nauglamir and Belagost.
Right.
So he takes this necklace and he goes to Doriath.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes to Thingol. And he throws this necklace at Thingol's feet.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, here, this is your, receive thou thy fee for thy fair keeping of my children and my wife. So he's mocking him, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously he didn't keep his children safe.
Húrin is is possessed by bitterness and anger at this point, you know.
Totally. Yeah.
And Thingol, in an uncharacteristic move, you know, basically, like, even though he realizes Húrin is insulting him, tries to actually be the grown-up in this situation.
He does, yeah. He takes pity on him.
Yeah.
Right, it says he restrained his wrath, and he endured Húrin's scorn. He doesn't say anything, though. Melian speaks up and basically says, look, we tried.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we did have him there. We had your wife and your kids here, and we desperately tried to keep them here.
Right.
And they just wouldn't listen to us. And then Húrin realized that she's telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it says he spoke no more what was past, but stooping, lifted up the Nauglamir from where it lay before Thingol's chair, and he gave it to him. Now he's actually giving it to him like a, you know, he's saying, okay, let's take two.
Right.
Right, let's try this again.
Right.
I'm sorry for my rash behavior. Receive now, Lord, the necklace of the dwarves as a gift from one who has nothing, and as a memorial of Húrin of Doriath. For now my fate is fulfilled, and the purpose of Morgoth achieved, but I am his thrall no longer. What does that mean? Like, did he like break out of a spell here? Or
something like that, yeah, like some kind of spell.
Okay.
And it may just have been the spell of extreme bitterness and anger, but but you know, to be thrall to someone is to be slave. So
right.
I am his thrall, I am his slave no longer.
The purpose of Morgoth achieved.
Yeah.
But he is no longer his slave.
Right.
So then Húrin leaves. He leaves Doriath.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it says nobody really notices. No one tries to keep him there. But now, the Thingol begins thinking about the Silmaril.
Right.
Again. And this thought comes to him that says, ooh, I have this really beautiful necklace. I have this Silmaril. I need to put the Silmaril on the necklace.
Yeah. The only thing better than having a jewel is being able to wear it around your neck.
Like all the time. I think it's a pretty great idea.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like some serious bling, right?
Yeah. Bling. Yeah.
And that would make anyone jealous.
Beholdeth my awesomeness.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so the next time that the dwarves come through, he basically says, hey guys, do this for me.
Yeah.
Right?
Put the Silmaril into the Nauglamir and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. He's like, I don't care what it takes. I don't care how long or how complicated it is, but do it. Make it work. And they did. They
did it, but
they did do it.
Then the dwarves looked upon the work of their fathers, and they beheld with wonder the shining jewel of Fëanor, and they were filled with a great lust to possess them, and carry them off to their far homes in the mountains. But they dissembled their mind and consented to the task.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a bit of foreshadowing there, right?
Right.
Because they really wanted it. They really wanted the Silmaril.
Mm-hmm.
But they were like, we're going to be, we can do this. We just need to not think about how much we want the Silmarillion and we're going to do it.
Right.
And they did.
Well, they make it.
They make it. And,
but it doesn't turn out the way that Thingol was planning.
No, it doesn't. And, well, it probably doesn't help that Thingol insults them.
Yeah.
Right? He calls them the stunted people. Right?
Well,
they, like, get into a little argument.
Well, yeah, but he calls them the stunted people after, he says, by what, the dwarves come back to him when he demands the necklace, and they withhold it from him.
That's right.
They say, by what right does the Elven King lay claim to the Nauglamir that was made by our fathers for Finrod Felagund, who is dead? It has come to him, but by the hand of Húrin, the man of Dorloman, who took it as a thief out of the darkness of Nargothrond.
So they're saying it's ours.
Yeah.
Right. The only reason you have it is because your friend stole it from, it wasn't his to begin with. It was not his to give. Mm-hmm. So you have no right to have it.
Right.
Right. And then Thingol responds, and he says, well, how do ye of uncouth race dare to demand aught of me, Elu Thingol, Lord of Beleriand, whose life began by the waters of... I don't know how to say that word.
Oh, come on. You can say it.
Cuivianin.
Pretty good. Cuivianin.
Cuivianin. Years uncounted ere the fathers of the stunted people awoke. He's like, so he totally, I can just see him, standing to his full height and putting his hands on his hips. And he's like, do you not know who I am?
Yeah.
You need to remember who you're talking to. Right? And shock of shocks, they get mad at him, right? And they attack him, and they kill him. Yeah. I did not see that coming.
Didn't see old Thingol's death coming, huh?
Not at the hands of dwarves.
Yeah,
who were making him a necklace. No, I didn't.
It's fitting, I think, too, that Thingol's downfall is in a wrathful kind of racist moment here, because before he had been totally anti, he had been hating on Beren when Beren showed up.
That's
right,
true.
as a man.
Yeah.
So Thingol definitely has a strong superiority complex.
He does.
When it comes to other races. And the name the stunted people, that sounds like the words don't sound, just the sound of the words don't sound very insulting, but the idea is pretty insulting.
Yes,
you're not a fully formed people.
Yes.
But they could push back. They could come back at him and be like, well, we were created, our fathers were created before you guys even woke up, right? Because they were, right? If you go back to Ale and Yavanna, that's like chapter 2, and then elves don't come until later on, right? Now the dwarves didn't actually wake up until later on, but
right.
But yeah, they've got a little bit of, they can say something about themselves there, in theory.
Yeah, they that's right. They did have something to say.
But yeah, they.
But they didn't. They let their swords do the talking.
It says their lust was kindled to rage by the words of the king, and they rose up about him and laid hands on him and slew him as he stood. You can just picture this in your mind, there's it's almost, I hate to put it in terms this kind of crude and vulgar, but it's almost kind of like, it almost pictures like a drug deal gone bad. You got these gangsters on either side of the table, and they're haggling back and forth about who's gonna get it, and one of them, the hothead, stands up and he's like, you think that belongs to me, and starts calling them names and all this kind of stuff. And then the other ones, they come in and they're secret buddies who are sitting there, the guy who was saying all that stuff didn't have enough backup, and the other guys are so insulted that they just kind of swarm around. They weren't planning it, but they have all the backup there, and they just swarm around him and just it just it almost looks like something out of a gangster film, like a Goodfellas or a The Godfather or something like that,
Yes.
Yeah. it has that feel to it. That this was not premeditated, but the Silmaril, it's kind of like the lust of the Silmaril strikes again.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty. Yeah.
Because you have to figure there's probably some of that same thing going on with both of them, right? With the dwarves and with Thingol.
Right. Yeah, that's probably true.
It's just desiring to have possession of the Silmaril.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of parallels between the Silmaril here and the Ring and the Hobbit, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Thingol is dead.
Yeah.
Now. And the dwarves leave, right? They try to leave.
Well, yeah, I think the next big thing that happens is Melian, right? Melian fleeing.
But I think it's important that the dwarves, some of them escape. Some of them don't, but some of them do. So they're still in play.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. They're still in play a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, then Melian. Melian's sad, right? And she basically leaves.
Yeah.
Right?
It says she had taken on the form of the children of Ilúvatar for love of Elwë, for love of Thingol.
The form of the elder children of Ilúvatar.
Right. And
so she basically.
She looked like an elf, basically, right?
But she wasn't Maya.
Right.
Okay.
But now that he's gone, she's released from that.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So
she goes back to Valinor? Is that what happens?
She does. She goes back to Valinor, to the land of Lúthien in Valinor, basically to mourn.
Okay. And then once she's gone, they who comes to the dwarves? There's a battle, right, between the elves and the dwarves.
Yeah. Well, the girdle of Melian, since Melian's gone, is now gone. So that was the thing that was protecting Doriath.
Right.
From invasion by any foes, whether it be the foes of Morgoth or by others, and so without her protection, Doriath is wide open.
Yeah, it's open.
And so it's basically sacked by the dwarves, right? At this point,
the dwarves come back,
and
they're victorious, and they ransacked and plundered the halls of Thingol.
Yeah.
And Mablung. Is that right?
Mablung.
Is killed.
Right.
And the Silmaril is taken.
The Silmaril is taken along with the Nauglamir. And it says, many dwarves and many elves were slain, and it has not been forgotten. And, you'll get to the Lord of the Rings and see that there's a lot of, just ongoing bad blood between the elves and the dwarves, right? That they just generally distrust each other.
Yeah. For good reason.
Yeah. Well, yeah, now we see the good reason. Right. The dwarves sack Menegroth, and so Menegroth and Nargothrond are both of these ancient, kingdoms, houses of wealth and treasure, and these little fortresses in Beleriand.
Right.
Both of them are gone now, so now only Gondolin stands of these three great ancient cities. Yeah.
Wow. Well, so now I have a change of location here, right? And Beren and Lúthien are brought back into the story.
Right, yeah. Kind of surprised to see them again.
Yeah, I was surprised to see them.
Yeah.
But they're brought back in because basically a messenger is sent, right, to tell them what happened.
Right.
Right. About the ruin of Doriath. And it talks a little bit about their their son, right? His son is married now and has kids of his own, so they're grandparents. But when they get word of what happened down in Menegroth, the Beren takes off, right? And he goes with his son to, I guess, basically get revenge. Is that right?
Well, to get the necklace back from the dwarves, right?
Right. Okay. And the Silmaril.
Right.
Yeah. And so,
I thought this part was cool. Then Beren gazed in wonder on the self-same jewel of Fëanor that he had cut from Morgoth's iron crown, now shining set amid gold and gems by the cunning of the dwarves. And he washed it clean of blood in the waters of the river. And when all was finished, the treasure of Doriath was drowned in the river Ascar, and from that time the river was named anew Roth Loriel, the Golden Bed. But Beren took the Nauglamir and returned to Tolkien. Yeah.
This is after the battle. But it says that, so I had to read this part a couple of times, so I was confused. I thought it was saying that Beren died and cursed the treasure, but that's not what it was saying. It was saying that the dwarf, right? The Lord of Nauglamir.
That's right.
Was dying and cursed the treasure as he was dying. And so that's why it was drowned, right, in the river, because it was cursed.
Right.
But then Beren does he takes the necklace and he returns to
Tolgalin, that's right. Which is, by the way, if you look at the map in the back, you can see where Tolgalin is if you go down here. Down the very lower right-hand corner.
Oh, right. Yes.
It's that little land in the middle of the river, right there.
Right. So he takes the necklace back and gives it to Lúthien.
Right.
Right. It says it wasn't much consolation to her, but it is said that in song that Lúthien wearing that necklace and that immortal jewel was the vision of greatest beauty and glory that has ever been outside the realm of Valinor. And for a little while, the land of the dead that live became like a vision of the land of the Valar, and no place has been since so fair, so fruitful, or so filled with light.
Mm-hmm.
So it brought lots of beauty. And it's not like Lúthien was ugly to start with, right? So like Lúthien is just made even more amazing. Yep.
But unfortunately, it also seems to hasten their
death.
Seems
to kind of suck the lifeblood out of you. So
and it may not be that it's sucking the lifeblood out of them, but it's like it's almost too much for the world to handle. You know.
Well, too much for the world to handle, or is too much for them to handle?
Well, let's see. Let's go down. So on 236, it says, "In the coffer lay the necklace of dwarves." So it comes to Díor, who's now in Menegroth and who has become the king of Menegroth. So he is Thingol's heir, being his grandson.
Right, because his mother was Thingol's daughter. Right.
Right. And then so he receives the necklace of the dwarves wherein was set the Silmaril, and Díor, looking upon it, knew for a sign that Beren, Erchamion, and Lúthien Tinuviel had died indeed and gone where go the race of men to a fate beyond the world. Long did Díor gaze upon the Silmaril which his father and mother had brought beyond hope out of the terror of Morgoth, and his grief was great that death had come upon them so soon. But the wise have said that the Silmaril hastened their end, for the flame of the beauty of Lúthien as she wore it was too bright for mortal lands. Right? So it's it's almost like the beauty of it was just too much for this world. That's the way I read it, at least.
So it wasn't okay. So it's kind of like Lúthien,
or at least for Balerion, I guess maybe that's what mortal lands mean, because you think of the undying lands would be Valar, they're Valinor, but for that Silmaril and to be on Lúthien here in this world would be almost too much, right?
Right, but it didn't. It's saying though that it hastened her end, right, and Beren's end. It didn't destroy the lands, right?
Well, yeah, but so maybe it means that Ilúvatar decided it was time to take them out of the world because of that, right? That their end needed to come soon, right?
I see. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so now Díor is wearing the necklace.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about that. I mean, like the whole concept of, this divine divine glory, divine beauty being too much for mortal lands. And, you go back and you look at the Old Testament, and when God is, setting up the whole Jewish system with Moses, and he's giving them all these really strict rules about when they can be in the tabernacle and when they can touch different things, and they've got to just giving them all these really strict rules because it's almost like the glory. His glory is too much for them to handle. If I'm there, you can't be there, right?
Yes.
Because it would destroy you,
Yes.
So I don't know. I see a relationship between those two things.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So Lúthien was basically just too glorified.
I think so.
For the world to handle.
I don't think it was like radiation poisoning or anything like that.
Okay. Just so we're clear.
Yeah.
Oh no, I just meant that it was too much good.
Yeah.
For a fallen world. And so now the Silmaril and the necklace pass on to Díor. Mm-hmm. That's just kind of a really interesting kind of circle of life picture, right? Because, Beren and Lúthien risk their lives. They steal it from Morgoth. Well, I mean, obviously Fëanor. You all stuff to Fëanor. But just in the last few chapters, it's come full circle, right? It's just gone from, it's gone from Fëanor to Morgoth to Beren and Lúthien, right? To Finrod, I guess, right? And then from Finrod to Húrin, from Húrin to Thingol, from Thingol to Díor. This is made this long trip kind of through all the races of Middle Earth.
Right.
But it lands back with Beren and Lúthien, who are the ones who got it back from Morgoth in the first place. So
yeah.
It seems kind of destiny.
For them, for it to come back to them.
For them to come back to them.
Yeah, I guess it is fitting that ultimately they die with the Silmaril in their possession.
Yeah.
It always seems right.
It seems fitting, yeah. So now Díor has the necklace. Mm-hmm. And word gets out, that this is where the Silmaril is now.
And when word gets out?
When word gets out, there's a Silmaril loose nearby.
That's right.
Yeah. Not a good thing.
Guess who's going to do something about that?
It's why if I ever win the lottery, I don't, I want to be completely anonymous.
Yeah.
I don't want people knowing my name. I don't want them to know where I live.
Good luck with that.
I know.
I think you have better luck winning the lottery than
of
actually making
people not knowing where I live afterwards.
Yeah.
You're probably right. Yeah.
But yeah, so the 7 sons of Fëanor.
They're like,
yeah.
They come to claim it, right? And so they take Díor and they attack. They ambush him unawares in the middle of winter.
Yeah. And this is messed up. I mean,
it's totally messed up.
It's just kind of like, he's just getting things set back up in the Thousand Caves after he got sacked in Menegroth. And, they're trying to make another go of it in Doriath and restore it to its former glory. And boom.
Yep.
But Grandma's not there to protect him anymore.
No. No. And so befell the second slaying of elf by elf.
Yeah, so it's like another kinslaying in a way.
Yeah, it is. Because Díor killed a couple, but he ultimately was also slain, and along with his wife. And then what's really messed up is that Celegorm, or is it Celegorm? Celegorm kidnaps his sons, right, and leaves them to starve in the forest.
Well, his servants do. The cruel servants.
Oh, right,
of
the
Celegorm.
cruel servants. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right, because Celegorm was dead.
Yeah.
So yeah, his servants kidnap the boys and let them starve, and Maedhros tries to find them. He feels bad about it afterwards.
Yeah.
But he can't find them.
Yeah.
And that's it. We don't hear anything else about his sons.
Maedhros was, one of the sons of Fëanor that,
right.
despite his going along with many things, always seemed to have something of a conscience.
Was he the one that was hung?
Yeah, he was the one that lost his hand.
That's right.
After being hung,
and
voluntarily gave the kingship of the Noldor over to the line of Fingolfin, right?
Oh, right. Yeah. He's kind of like Reuben, right, in the story of Joseph's brothers.
Was Reuben the one that tried to help Joseph?
Yeah, he was the one that didn't want to throw him into the pit, I think.
Okay.
I think. Maybe I'm wrong.
He makes a killer sandwich too.
He does.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's the end of his sons, except...
Yeah.
Well, it's the end of his sons.
Yeah, okay. I thought you were going to say it's the end of the chapter.
No, it's not the end. With the end of his sons and his wife and of Díor. And Doriath is destroyed and never again rose. But the sons of Fëanor gained not what they sought, for a remnant of the people fled before them, and with them was Elwing, Díor's daughter. And they escaped, and bearing with them the Silmaril, they came in time to the mouths of the river Sirion by the sea.
Yeah.
So it does end on a bit of a hopeful note.
Yep.
I mean, it's, pretty much most everything is lost, except that the sons of Fëanor do not get the Silmaril.
Right.
And there's still a living member of Díor's kin out
Díor's
there.
kin, that's right. His daughter, Elwing.
So who is it that helped her escape, you think?
I don't know.
Like just the other elves that were there fighting with them?
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of elves, right?
Yeah.
Lots of elves around.
Yeah.
I liked her name. Her name means star spray.
I thought that was really cool. I think that's very, very cool.
But yeah, she'll come back. She'll play. She plays an important role in the last chapter.
Okay.
So, just FYI. So that's the end of chapter 22.
Craziness.
Good job. Thanks for leading the second part, Greta.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure. I think I did better than last time, maybe. I said maybe a little less.
I guess so.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
All right.
Well, thanks for listening. Hope you all enjoyed that chapter.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. We will do chapter 23 next time of Díor and the Fall of Gondolin. We are almost there, so I basically think we're going to have 2 more episodes, and then we're all done with the chapter-by-chapter walkthrough of the Silmarillion.
Awesome.
And so we're going to be thinking about what comes after that. Definitely be going back to the Lord of the Rings some. And not sure if we'll go right into a Calabaith or just save that for another time. But, we'll have to be talking about it. So if you have a preference, let us know.
If there's something you want us to do, let us know.
But, so we're always open to ideas. But thanks for listening, and we will talk at you next time.
Yeah, we'll do it.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Goodbye.
Bye, y'all.
Please remember to check out truemyths.org for show notes and plenty of other Tolkien goodness. Also, if you're enjoying the podcast, would you please leave the Tolkien Road a rating and feedback on iTunes? It's a great way to support the show and takes less than a minute. On the next episode, we'll continue with Chapter 23 of the Silmarillion, of Díor and the Fall of Gondolin. Thanks for listening, and until next time, the road goes ever on.